Good Thursday morning, Patriots, and welcome back to O'Connor's Right Stand. I'm your host, John O'Connor, software programmer by day, conservative truth seeker by night. Today is December 4th, and in exactly 13 days, Bill Clinton is supposed to walk into a congressional deposition to answer questions about Jeffrey Epstein under oath. The next day, Hillary Clinton is supposed to do the same. And Patriots, they are doing everything they can to avoid it. Their lawyer tried offering written statements instead. House Oversight Chairman James Comer said no. Now, the Clintons face a choice. Show up and testify on December 17th and 18th or face contempt of Congress charges. The same charges that sent Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro to prison. Today, we are laying out everything the Clintons don't want you to know. Flight logs, what the photographs show, White House visitor records, the nephew they hired. All of it documented, all of it verifiable, and all of it raising serious questions they refuse to answer. The Right Stand starts now. When this story first broke, Bill Clinton's spokesperson said he'd taken 4 trips on Epstein's plane for Clinton Foundation work. 4 trips between 2002 and 2003. They painted it as innocent humanitarian travel. The actual number, 26. Flight logs filed with Federal Aviation Administration show Clinton took at least 26 trips aboard the Lolita Express between 2001 and 2003. That nickname exists for a reason, Patriots. According to victims, the Boeing 727 was outfitted with a bed where Epstein and his associates had group sex with underage girls. This wasn't some corporate jet. This was a flying crime scene. These weren't short flights either. We are talking extended international trips to Singapore, Norway, Russia, and throughout Africa. Multi-day excursions where Clinton spent extended time with Epstein, Maxwell, and others in Epstein's inner circle. And here's the really disturbing part. On at least 5 of those flights, Clinton traveled without his Secret Service detail. Let me be clear about what that means. Dismissing Secret Service protection requires filing official paperwork. It's not automatic. It's not casual. A former president has to formally request to dismiss his protective detail. The Secret Service has refused to respond to multiple Freedom of Information Act requests about these trips. They won't confirm whether Clinton filed the right forms. They won't explain why agents weren't on those flights. They just went silent. A former Secret Service agent told Fox News that a former president would be required to file forms to dismiss his detail. The Washington Examiner filed detailed FOIA requests specifically asking about 2002 trips, one to Asia and one to Africa, where no Secret Service personnel are listed on the manifests. The Secret Service spokesperson would only say, former President Clinton has never declined Secret Service protection. But they refused to answer whether agents were actually present on those specific trips. So, either Clinton filed those forms and they are hiding them, or he violated federal protocol. Either way, the question remains, why would a former president ditch his security to fly internationally with a known sex offender? According to flight manifests, Clinton frequently traveled with Maxwell, who is now serving 20 years in federal prison for sex trafficking. He also flew with Sarah Kellen, Epstein's assistant, who multiple victims have named as helping recruit girls for abuse. The logs also list passengers by first names only, including someone called Tatiana. We don't know who Tatiana was. We don't know how old she was, but she was on these flights with Clinton, Epstein, and Maxwell. Conchita Sarnoff, founder of the Alliance to Rescue Victims of Trafficking and author of a book on the Epstein case called Trafficking, said this in 2016. Bill Clinton associated with a man like Jeffrey Epstein, who everyone in New York, certainly within his inner circles, knew was a pedophile. Why would a former president associate with a man like that? That's the question, isn't it? Because Epstein's proclivities weren't secret. The Palm Beach police launched their investigation in 2005 after a 14-year-old girl's parents reported abuse. Police ultimately identified 20 girls between 14 and 17 who were sexually abused by Epstein, and this was all happening while Clinton was flying around the world with him. Clinton has repeatedly denied visiting Epstein's private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. His spokesperson has said multiple times, President Clinton has never been to the island. They have been very specific about that denial, but multiple people say otherwise. Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's most prominent accusers who died this past April, gave a deposition explicitly stating she saw Clinton on the island. She wasn't vague about it. She said she was there at the same time as the former commander-in-chief, and she asked Epstein directly, "What's Bill Clinton doing here?" According to her testimony, Epstein laughed and said, "He owes me a favor." Think about that, Patriots. The former president of the United States owed Jeffrey Epstein a favor. What kind of favor? For what? Giuffre and Maxwell and someone named Emmy, presumably Maxwell's assistant Emmy Taylor, were present during Bill Clinton's visit, along with 2 young girls from New York. They all allegedly stayed in villas outside the main residence. Doug Band, Clinton's former top aide, made shocking allegations in a 2020 Vanity Fair interview. He claimed Clinton took a trip in 2003 to Epstein's Island. This is someone from Clinton's inner circle, contradicting the official denial. Then there are the photographs. The Daily Mail published photos back in 2020 showing Bill Clinton receiving a neck massage from Shantae Davies, one of Epstein's trafficking victims. These weren't paparazzi shots. These were photos that had been sitting in evidence for years. This happened during a stopover on Clinton's 2002 Africa trip aboard the Lolita Express itself. Davies was 22 at the time. According to her account, Maxwell was present and encouraged Davies to give Clinton the massage. "Would you mind giving it a crack?" Clinton allegedly asked. Davies said Clinton was a complete gentleman, and there's no allegation of wrongdoing in that specific instance. But, Patriots, let's think about what we are looking at. A former president receiving a massage from a sex trafficking victim on a plane owned by a pedophile, facilitated by his accomplice who is now in federal prison. Does that sound like someone who knew nothing about what was happening? It gets worse. White House visitor logs obtained by the Daily Mail show Epstein visited the Clinton White House at least 17 times during Clinton's presidency. 17 visits over 3 years, starting just 1 month after Clinton's inauguration in January 1993. This wasn't occasional contact. This was regular access to the most powerful office in the world. On 3 separate days, Epstein made 2 visits in a single day. Most visits stated he was going to the West Wing, meaning he likely met with Clinton himself. Epstein was invited by some of Clinton's most senior advisors and aides, including people who later served in Treasury positions. In April 2012, The Sun published a photo of Clinton welcoming Epstein and Maxwell to the White House in 1993 after Epstein reportedly donated funds for the Oval Office's refurbishment. So we have photographic evidence of their relationship dating back to the very beginning of Clinton's presidency. Epstein's little black book, the infamous phone directory seized by investigators, contained 21 phone numbers for Bill Clinton. Not one number, not a couple numbers, 21. That's more numbers than most people have for their own family members. Now, let's talk about Hillary Clinton's connection that I have absolutely heard no one ever talk about. Hillary Clinton hired Maxwell's nephew, multiple times in fact, in high-level government positions dealing with some of America's most sensitive foreign policy. His name is Alexander Derassi, D-J-E-R-A-S-S-I, if you want to look him up. He's the son of Maxwell's sister, Isabel Maxwell, and Hillary Clinton gave him a career path from her presidential campaign straight into the upper levels of the State Department. Let's walk through the timeline carefully because the timing matters. From September 2007 to June 2008, Giuffre worked as a policy associate for Hillary's 2008 presidential campaign. According to his LinkedIn profile, his responsibilities included researching and drafting memos, briefings, and policy papers for the candidate, senior staff, and news media on a wide range of domestic and foreign policy issues. He also prepared Hillary for more than 20 debates during the primary season. Now, Patriots, remember the timing here. In late 2007, Jeffrey Epstein was actively under investigation for sex trafficking girls in Palm Beach, Florida. He was negotiating the controversial plea deal that would let him plead guilty to just 2 state charges, while protecting potential co-conspirators. Maxwell was believed to be one of the accomplices who would be protected under the sweetheart agreement that Alexander Ocaso's office was hammering out. But that's just the beginning. After Hillary became Secretary of State in January of 2009, Giuffre got hired at the State Department that May as a staff assistant. Now, a staff assistant position might sound entry-level, but at the State Department, these positions often serve as launching pads for rapid advancement if you have the right connections. And boy, did Giuffre advance. By May 2011, just 2 years later, he'd been promoted to the Chief of Staff for the Office of the Assistant Secretary of State in the Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs. Before that promotion, from May 2009 to May 2011, he served as Special Assistant to that same office. Let me explain what this means. The Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs is responsible for U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East and North Africa. During Giuffre's tenure from 2009 to 2012, this region was exploding. We are talking about the Arab Spring uprisings, the Benghazi attacks that killed 4 Americans, including Ambassador Chris Stevens, the rise of ISIS, the Syrian civil war, the Israeli-Palestinian peace efforts, and the collapse of governments across the region. This was one of the most sensitive and high-pressure positions in the entire State Department, and according to sources who spoke to OK magazine, Giuffre was fresh out of college when Hillary gave him the massive responsibility. According to those sources, Secretary Clinton gave Alex a job in one of the most sensitive areas of Obama's executive apparatus. The fact Alex Giuffre, fresh out of college, was put in charge of the State Department's Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs, covering the Middle East, was an interesting move, end quote. The sources continued. He worked directly on the Arab Spring, and Hillary sent Alex as the U.S. representative to the expatriate rebel groups, Friends of Libya, and Friends of the Syrian People. These weren't ceremonial positions. These were operational roles dealing with armed rebel groups trying to overthrow governments. WikiLeaks published emails where Assistant Secretary of State Jeffrey Feltman referred to his special assistant Alex Giuffre in November 2011 and January 2012. So we have documentary evidence of Giuffre working in these high-level positions. Now look at the timing again. In 2008, just 1 year before Giuffre joined the State Department, Jeffrey Epstein pleaded guilty to procuring for prostitution a girl under age 18. He was sentenced to 18 months, but just served only 13 months before being released on house arrest. And in July 2010, right in the middle of Giuffre's State Department tenure, Maxwell attended Chelsea Clinton's wedding. Let that sink in. Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice in sex trafficking, who is now serving 20 years in federal prison, attended the Clintons' family's most intimate family celebration while her nephew was working at Hillary's State Department in a position overseeing Middle East policy. Does any of this look like coincidence? The relationship didn't end there. In 2016, after Hillary lost her presidential run and was preparing for what she thought would be a presidential transition, Giuffre's LinkedIn shows he worked as a national security policy planner for the Clinton-Kaine presidential transition team. So, from 2007 to 2016, Giuffre moved seamlessly between Hillary Clinton's orbit and high-level government positions. Campaign staff, State Department Special Assistant, State Department Chief of Staff, back to the campaign transition team. The House Oversight Committee subpoenaed Hillary Clinton partly because of her repeated hiring of Maxwell's nephew. They want answers. What was the nature of her relationship with Maxwell? Why did she hire Maxwell's nephew for her campaign? Why did she bring him into the State Department? Why did she give him such a sensitive position so quickly? What did she know about Epstein's activities and Maxwell's role in them? Here's where we are now. Chairman Comer issued subpoenas in August. The Clintons were supposed to appear in October. They didn't show. Their lawyer, David Kendall, said they have little to contribute and offered written statements instead. On November 21st, Comer sent a letter making it crystal clear: appear for depositions or face contempt of Congress. He wrote, "It is precisely the fact President Clinton and Secretary Clinton each maintained relationships with Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell in their personal capacities as private citizens that is of interest to this committee. Then, given their history with Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell, any attempt by the Clintons to avoid sitting for a deposition would be in defiance of lawful subpoenas and grounds to initiate contempt of Congress proceedings. Bill Clinton, December 17th. Hillary Clinton, December 18th. Further delays are unacceptable." Comer made this point. "We expect the Clintons to come in, or I expect the Clintons to be met with the same fate that Bannon and Navarro were met with. When Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro defied Democrat subpoenas, they were prosecuted. Both got 4 months in federal prison. The Democrats used the full weight of the Justice Department. Now, it's the Clintons' turn. If there's any justice left, the same rules apply. No special treatment, no written statements that let them dodge hard questions, no allowing the powerful to play by different rules while everyone else faces consequences." We need to remember that this isn't just about the Clintons. This is about Jeffrey Epstein's victims. Dozens of women were sexually abused by Epstein when they were children. 14, 15, 16 years old. Girls recruited, groomed, and trafficked by Epstein and Maxwell. These women have spent years trying to get justice. They have testified. They have relived their trauma in pursuit of accountability. What did they get? Epstein died in a Manhattan jail cell. Maxwell is serving 20 years but refused to name names. The DOJ announced last year that no other people would be charged. Case closed. That's why Congress got involved, because the victims deserve answers. They deserve to know who enabled Epstein's abuse and who helped protect him. If Bill Clinton flew on that plane 26 times, ditched his Secret Service on 5 trips, and maintained close relationships with Epstein and Maxwell for years, then victims deserve to hear him explain that under oath. If Hillary hired the nephew of a convicted sex trafficker and that trafficker attended her daughter's wedding, then victims deserve to hear her explain that under oath. This is about accountability. This is about making sure wealth and power don't shield people from answering questions about their associations with a pedophile and sex trafficking ring. I'm not accusing the Clintons of personally engaging in illegal sexual activity. There's no evidence right now of that. But what we can document is that they've lied about the extent of their relationship with Epstein and Maxwell. And when Congress demands answers, they are trying to dodge. That tells me they are hiding something. Patriots, on December 17th and 18th, we will find out whether we still have equal justice in this country, whether the Clintons play by the same rules as everyone else. Steve Bannon went to prison for defying a congressional subpoena. Peter Navarro went to prison for defying a congressional subpoena. If the Clintons refuse to appear, they should face the exact same consequences. The House Oversight Committee has released over 65,000 pages of Epstein documents. Attorney General Pam Bondi is reviewing the files. President Trump signed legislation requiring the DOJ to release the full, unredacted Epstein files. The truth is coming out. Epstein's victims deserve justice, answers, and accountability from the powerful. All right, that's all I've got today, Patriots. If you haven't already, do me a favor and smash that subscribe, follow, and or like button with your most vicious taps. It really does help me out, and I so very much appreciate it. Once you're done here, head over and check out O'Connor's Quick Strike, my Monday, Wednesday, and Friday show. Find me on X at O'Connor Podcast and check out the website at o'connorsrightstand.com. I'll see you on Tuesday and have a fantastic weekend. This is John O'Connor, signing off.